Am I the a-hole for getting an entire table for myself after my husband and his mom didn't save me a seat? I'll start this off by saying that I, female 32, have been with my husband Bob, male 39, for 3 years, married for 1. His mom has a habit of keeping me out of most of their functions with the excuse of "you work too much." Not true, because sometimes I do make myself available but yet find myself excluded. Last week, his mom invited us for a celebratory dinner at the restaurant after she completed her recovery. I had to that day, but I kept her and everyone know that I'd be there at 8 p.m. Bob obviously knew I was coming. Thing is, when I arrived to the restaurant, I saw that the table was full, all chairs had been taken, and I stood there with complete puzzlement while Bob and his mom just stared at me. His mom then told me there was no place left for me and that I could either have Bob get up and take his seat or go home. I was so upset, but instead of going home, I just went and took an entire table for me. Bob and his mom watched with their eyes popping out of their heads like they saw something so shocking. Not gonna lie, I did get weird looks from the guests, but so did Bob and his mom. It was awkward in all honesty. I had my dinner, dessert, then went home. I saw Bob and his mom staring grudgingly while I was making my way out. He got home an hour later and yelled, saying I embarrassed his mom in front of her guests. I yelled, asking what the F was I supposed to do after I got denied a seat, and he told me that it wasn't his nor his mom's fault. Guests arrived before me and took all the available chairs. I told him he could have saved me a chair. He said that I could have just left instead, and reminded me that I was a guest and that I shouldn't expect this level of entitlement to be accepted. He then went on about how I ruined the entire dinner for him and his mom with what I did and has been pouting about it for days now. I don't get it. I really don't. Was my expectation really that entitled? I mean, as his wife, he should have saved me a seat, but clearly I'm missing something here. Am I the a-hole for using my husband's car to get to work after he tricked me into going to his family's barbecue party? I, female 33, am a nurse. I have a very, very busy schedule. It's been absolutely crazy the past couple of years. My husband, male 36, works an office job, and because he's a family-oriented type of guy, he always hangs put with his family. His family live on a ranch in the middle of literally nowhere. It's a hassle to go there, and due to my work nature, I don't go to most of their functions. I do, however, make sure to attend the big ones. Last week, his family wanted to host a barbecue party. He wanted me to go with him so badly since all his brothers were bringing their wives and since they mocked him for coming alone in the past. I said sorry, but I had a shift to cover. He begged, suggested I swap shifts with other nurses who are my friends, and even called them all to beg them to cover for me. I grew irritated and told him to stop it. He sulked for a whole day, then dropped it. In the morning, and hours before my shift, I discovered that my car's tires were out of air. My husband offered to drive me to the hospital at 4 p.m. and I agreed. I got ready and we got in the car, but instead of taking me to the hospital, he drove me straight to his family's ranch. I was dumbfounded and angry after he said he tricked me into attending this barbecue and that I had to suck it up and set this shift out. I was so mad I didn't know what to say. We got to the ranch and I sat outside fuming. I waited and saw I still had time to make it to the hospital if I figured out a way to get there. I watched my husband go inside, leaving his keychain next to me, right where he was sitting. I took it and rushed to the back where all cars were parked, got into the car, and drove off. His dad saw me and told him. He started calling my phone relentlessly till I turned it off. I got to the hospital in time but didn't dare turn my phone off till it was past 8 p.m. I opened it and saw tons of angry messages from him berating me, calling me horrible and a manipulator. I got on the phone with him and he yelled about the awful stunt I pulled in bailing from the party and making him look bad in front of his family. He then calmed down and said that he now knows that work is more important to me and that he won't ever trust me after I basically stole his car and ran with it. We've been on terrible terms since then. His family are also mad, but I haven't spoken to them about it yet nor calcified anything. Am I the a-hole for what I did? I was desperate and worried that messing my shift might cost me my job.
Am I the a-hole for not attending my son's graduation ceremony? My son recently had his graduation ceremony. I'm proud of him, since he's the first person in the family to graduate high school, both on my side of the family, and his mother's. A few years ago my son had a bit of a religious phase. He started going to this weekly youth group thing with his friends at this church at the time and picked up some Christian beliefs for a bit. His mother and I didn't really approve of it since we're both non-religious, but we didn't really mind him exploring that route so long as he didn't start pushing it on us. As far as I know, he fell off with that phase, but he got to know this pastor there, we'll call him John, that he still sees at said group. My son, without telling me he'd do so, invited him to come to the ceremony, and I really don't know what to think. I don't really have too much of a good relationship with religious people. My son having that religious phase didn't sit the best with me since I used to attend a Narcotics Anonymous group in the past, and the entire religious aspect of it turned me away before I got help elsewhere. I didn't want to cause issue, so I sat him down and told him that with his ceremony it would either be me or John attending, and not both. He asked why I couldn't attend if John did, and I tried my best to express how uncomfortable I was being around someone as religious as him. He said he couldn't uninvite John, and that's when I told him I wouldn't be attending since I didn't want to cause trouble. I feel bad for not being there on his big day, but I really didn't want to be in an uncomfortable position, or even worse, have that cause any trouble at the ceremony. I'm trying to show him how proud I am of him, but since the ceremony nothing seems to have landed and he's been feeling more distant than usual. Am I the a-hole?